Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Mortgage Musketeer, where today we're going to be talking about how to get pre-approved for a home loan. Specifically, focusing on the documentation that you're going to need in order to actually get that pre-approval. Because up to that point, all the information that they've taken and everything that they've put into the application is dealing with your pre-qualification. To be pre-approved, you need the documentation to back up what you tell your loan officer. So, we're going to cover all the documents you're going to need. Intro. Okay, so the basic documentation that you're going to need for a pre-approval is going to be 30 days of pay stubs, 2 years of W-2s, 60 days of bank statements, a copy of your driver's license, and a copy of your social security card. And if you have that is your basic pre-approval, assuming that you are a regular W-2 employee. Okay, if you're self-employed or if you have rental properties, we'll talk about that in a minute. Alright, so let's focus on those. 30 days of pay stubs. Alright, so you're going to need to provide literally the 30 days of pay stubs. So go back, depending on how you're paid, it's literally for at least a 30-day window. Because what they're really looking at is 1/12. They're trying to figure out how much do you make for a year. And it's very important that the pay stubs that you provide have year-to-date column on them. So some people will do a printout or a screenshot. Those won't work. We need an actual pay stub. So if you don't have your pay stubs, you're going to have to get with HR to get them. Because we have to be able to show what you're making plus what is your year-to-date. And the reason for that is because the pay stub is going to show all kinds of stuff that the underwriter wants to see. The underwriter wants to see, do you have any additional deductions that we don't know? It'll show if there's any automatic withdrawals for like a lien or some type of loan that might not be showing up somewhere else. They're going to look at your pay stubs to see what's going on there. They're also going to look at your pay stubs to determine your income. Because you may say, hey, I work 40 hours a week, but maybe your pay stubs don't actually support that. So they need to be able to extrapolate that, or we need to be able to provide a letter of explanation why they don't make as much. Maybe you had some kind of medical condition that took you out of the job for about a month, so your year-to-date doesn't support what your hourly wage would be. But if you account for the time that you're out, then we can figure out what it is. So we got to really kind of take a look at that and figure out what's going on. The other piece to that is if you are variable income. So you have to know, and if your loan officer hasn't asked and hasn't told you that you're going to need a written verification of employment, if you are a nurse, if you are a truck driver who is paid by the mile, or if you are a teacher, we know right off the bat that they're going to require a written verification of employment, because they need to see how long you've been working there and what are you making, because typically those are considered variable income. Okay, teacher salary depends if you're paid by the year or what. If you're paid, because they're all different. Sometimes you don't get paid for the summer. Every school system is different, so they want to know actually how you're paid. So that's why they're looking at that. So with a truck driver who's being paid by the mile, they want to be able to see what is your average over really typically 2 years. You might be able to get away with 1 year, but you have to every situation is different. We have to actually talk about that. And then, of course, if you're a nurse, nurses are famous for being full-time at 36 hours. And if you're 36 hours, you're automatically going to be considered variable because you often get overtime, or sometimes you have 2 jobs. That's another thing. If you have 2 jobs, you have to work 2 jobs for 2 years in order to count both income. Because most people can't handle 2 jobs for 2 years. So those are just a couple things that they're going to be looking at in your pay stubs. But the bottom line is you need to give 30 days of pay stubs that are actual clear pay stubs that show your current pay and the year to date. Alright, next we're going to talk about W-2s. So it's the last 2 years of W-2s. At the time that we're filming this, we're at the beginning of January. Some people are starting to get that 2019 W-2, which means that we'll have to supply that. In about another 15 days or so, they're all going to be out, and they're going to want the last 2 to include the 2019 or the most recent. So just understand 2 years of W-2s. I also have a video that shows that tax returns do not trump W-2s. And the reason for that is because what they do is they take your W-2, that is your base statement, okay? And then that base statement, if they have to get tax transcripts, that's compared to those W-2s, not to your tax returns. Now, I understand logically how your W-2s are used for your tax returns. You turn your tax returns into the IRS, so it makes sense that the tax returns are the document they're looking for. No. Unless you're self-employed or have rental properties, we don't need those. We need your actual W-2s. And a lot of people don't have them because they gave them to their tax preparer. So if you don't have them, watching this video lets you know you need to find them and be able to give them to your loan officer. Okay, bank statements. Okay, so the first videos that I ever did dealt with assets. The second video I did was dealing with what do underwriters look for in bank statements. Remember that your bank statements are your underwriting resume. They're your financial resume. You need a very good copy of it. Here's a link to the video. Make sure you watch it. Super important. One of the most important parts about your actual pre-approval. All right, so that goes into depth. Right now, then a copy of your driver's license, make sure that it actually matches where you live, or that you've updated your driver's license, or if you've moved from another state, that you've updated your driver's license, and double check it's not expired. So many times, we're the ones who catch that you have an expired license, and the buyer doesn't even know. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it was expired, and then they have to go and get one. Take a look at your driver's license now, make sure it's not expired. We need a good, clean copy of that. They don't copy well, and they don't fax well. They come over all black. Okay, so take a picture, send a picture. It's one of the easiest ways to do it. Okay, and then if it's an FHA loan, or any other government loan, we're going to need a copy of your Social Security card. All right, so that is your basic documentation requirements for pre-approval that you can send to your loan officer so they can get that pre-approval letter out. Now, if you are self-employed, we're going to need your tax returns, okay? 2 years of tax returns. And the reason for that is because we have to go off of your adjusted gross income. Your adjusted gross income is often a lot less than what you actually made, because if you have a good CPA, they're going to deduct all kinds of stuff, so it makes it look like you have less. Unfortunately, that means that you have less income to qualify for a loan. Self-employed folks run into that all the time, and I have non-QM loans and some other ways to get around that. I'll do another video about that. But the thing that you need to know is if you are self-employed and you plan on buying a home, don't deduct everything under the sun, because everything that you deduct lowers your actual income for qualification for the debt to income ratio. Here's another video about debt to income ratio, breaks down exactly how we qualify for it. But understand that for a self-employed buyer, we have to go off the adjusted gross income. There's a line in your tax returns. Check it out. See what you actually make as far as the lending world is concerned. Okay, you might find it's a lot less than what you actually made, what went into your bank account. If you have rental properties, we need your tax returns, okay, and we need your Schedule E. So with your Schedule E, it's going to break down what you got for your rent, how much you deducted from it. We can add some stuff back into there, so we have to actually look at it so that we can give you the full income. Oops, I almost forgot. Okay, if you have rental properties, it is important that you have the following documentation ready. You're going to need the copy of the most recent mortgage statement for that rental property. You're going to need a copy of the lease agreement or the rental agreement. You're going to need a copy of the property tax bill and a copy of the homeowners insurance declarations page, because that declarations page is going to show what your yearly homeowners insurance premium is. They're going to need all that because it's going to break down. They're really going to look at, are you escrowing, are you not escrowing? But even if you are escrowing, most of the mortgage statements, they don't break down the taxes and the insurance. So if you actually have the documentation, it makes it really easy and no guesswork. Okay, so that's what you're going to need for your rental properties, every one of them. So know it. Go ahead and get the documentation now. Okay, so super important. If you're self-employed, also if you have a business or a partner, you're going to have K1s. We need your K1s and we need your business tax returns if you have a business. Okay, sometimes you only do it on the 1040, and that's fine. But if you have business tax returns, we also need the K1s, because the K1s are going to tell us how much of the, are you the sole owner or are you a partner? And if you're a partner, what percentage of the business do you actually own? And then that gets extrapolated and we figure out what your income is, okay? All right, so those are gonna be your basic qualification documents if you're self-employed, and then everything else that I covered before applies just the same. Now, if you receive Social Security for your income, we need your Social Security awards letter, okay? And that's normally sent at the beginning of the year, and it's the one that's perforated and it unfolds and it's kind of longer than a regular piece of paper. So we actually need a whole copy of that, front and back, all right? And that's going to tell us exactly what you made. If you get a pension, we need your pension awards letter, okay? Because that's going to break down what you get paid. Also, if you are receiving child support, we can use a child support if it's been received for a certain amount of months. Okay, we'll cover that later, but understand that we have to be able to show that in the bank statements. If you are paying child support, you're going to have to supply the divorce decree and any child support documents. Sometimes you go back to court. Anytime you've gone back to court and updated that, we're going to need a copy of all that. Now, this is what you need to understand about that. Nobody's looking through your divorce decree to see what happened in the divorce. Nobody cares in the loan industry. All we care about is the actual financials. How much are you paying in child support? Because that's what they're going to validate on there. All right? That's why it's important. So we have to supply all pages of that. And also understand that is all divorce decrees are public record. All right? So I know it's embarrassing or it's invasive or whatever. I promise you, no loan officer is looking at that to see what's going on. All they're looking at is what are you paying out, because a loan officer is concerned about your debt to income ratio, and they want to make sure that don't have to pay more in child support than maybe what was put out originally, because that can raise your debt to income ratio. All right, so those are the primary documents that we're going to need to deal with on an actual pre-approval. All right, so collect those documents, make sure they're clean, make sure they're really clear when you make copies of them to get to your loan officer, and that will set you up for success and smooth sail through the pre-approval process. All right. Excuse me. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful to you. It should be. This will actually help your loan officers tremendously getting you through the pre-approval process. Make sure that you subscribe, support the channel. I'm coming at you all the time with really helpful information so that you can get a home. All right, until next time, it's all for one and one for all.